All right, so Fragrance World Divin Asylum. This is a fragrance that when it came out last year, I'm going to say it probably was only out there for maybe about a month or so before it completely sold out. And we didn't see this fragrance becoming available again really until I believe like around April or so of this year. So almost like a whole year later. And what I wanted to do in this particular video is I wanted to maybe go over whether or not this fragrance has now been, sort of reformulated, because a lot of people, now that they've received, the newer box of this fragrance, or the newer batches pretty much, a lot of people are complaining that this newer, version of the fragrance does not perform nearly as well as, what I seem to be getting with this original batch pretty much. So we're going to be going over that and whether or not I think that this has possibly been reformulated or not, just based on a lot of different things. All right. So just to get started, there's some differences in the presentation. All right. What I'll say is, in terms of the front of the box, they do seem to be exactly the same pretty much. All right. So just so the camera can see here, front of the box, basically it's identical. All right. Now up top, what you'll have here is the new sort of rebranded French Avenue logo. So pretty much any newer F.A. Paris Fragrance World fragrances that you get, especially here in 2024, it's actually going to say French Avenue like it does on this box, as opposed to having the F.A. logo like it did on this older one here. All right. The sides exactly the same with the gold, but then on the back here, you've got, again, that French Avenue logo instead of the F.A. sort of logo on this box here. And then you can see that the writing is a little bit different on those as well. All right, the bottom, it looks pretty much the same. Obviously, different, batch codes and dates and stuff like that. All right. Now, the one thing that I just recently noticed when I went the other day to kind of look and see, like, okay, are there any like visible differences between the two fragrances? What I can definitely say is there is a visible difference in the juice color. Now, first, before I get to that, you'll see here, even the fronts of the actual boxes that these sit in are going to be a little bit different as well. So this one has the French Avenue logo. Again, this one has the F.A. Paris logo. All right. Same thing up top. Okay. And then the writing at the bottom seems to be like a slightly different color or shade or whatnot, with like gold. Almost kind of looks silvery sometimes on this one, the F.A. Paris box. All right. Now, I don't know if the camera is going to pick this up or not, but the thing that I noticed with the two fragrances were the newer F.A. Paris, Divin Asylum. This one seems to have much darker juice than the original does. All right. So this is the newer batch right here. It has more of kind of like this ambery sort of gold colored juice. Whereas the original one, the one that I bought last year, this one has a much more sort of, almost kind of, neutral color, I would say. It definitely has kind of like a slightly goldish colored, tinge to the juice. But the juice is almost more clear, I would say, within the original bottle. All right. So that's definitely one thing that I noticed for sure with the two fragrances. Other than that, I mean, I would say pretty much the presentation and everything like that are pretty much exactly the same. So you're getting, the same cap for the most part, except what I will say is the cap on this bottle here, the newer one, it does have more of sort of like a darker sort of gold brondish sort of color. Whereas this definitely it's lighter on the original bottle. All right. And then also, I think that the plaque placement on the newer bottle, it is a little bit straighter. It does still look a little bit crooked to me, but definitely not as bad as what the original one had. All right. Now, in terms of the actual smell of the two fragrances, when I smell them side by side, I do sort of tell a difference between the two fragrances. Now, when I first got this, because I didn't have any intentions of, just wearing it right away, I just basically, I sprayed the new bottle, a few times just to kind of get, air into the bottle or whatnot, and, sort of start that maturation process. So that when I did, finish my original bottle, this one would be pretty much ready to go. So I didn't really pay too much attention to, the smell difference or, the performance or anything like that, because I didn't really intend to wear this particular fragrance. But after people, were kind of complaining in the comments about how bad the new batch of Divin Asylum was performing, I went ahead and said, you know what, let me go ahead and see how this actually smells in comparison to the original batch. And what I can definitely say is, in my opinion, there is a difference in smell. So despite the fact that this one seems to have darker juice, which I feel like normally that would kind of tell you that more than likely this is going to be like a more aged, mature, sort of, stronger juice. That's not the case that I'm getting with this. Definitely, I would say that the citruses, the florals, the spices, everything that you get with Elysium Parfum Cologne, everything seems to be a little bit richer in this original bottle that I have with the lighter juice. Okay. Now, I would say you can still sort of, you still get those things with the newer batch, but I would say that at least for right now, this newer batch does seem to be a lot more sort of muted, slightly less bright. And I would say not as punchy as, what you're getting with the Divin Asylum that I bought last year. Now, I've sprayed these two fragrances on my skin before I did the video. It's probably been a couple of hours now. I have the 2023 version on this arm here. And then I have the 2024 on this arm. And I mean, I would say right now they seem to be about the same, but I want to say it's probably been about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours or so. And they pretty much smell about the same. But I would say when you smell these two, at least in the initial opening on the tester strip, the 2023 version, it does smell better, in my opinion, for sure. It just has more depth, more richness. the sort of citrusy, sort of spicy floral vibe that you get with Elysium, it seems to be a lot more defined in the 2023 version. Yeah, this newer version to me just seems to be a lot more sort of muted. Now, does that necessarily mean that this fragrance has been, for sure reformulated? I don't know. I don't know. I would say everything points to it, being the case. I would say just based on the juice color alone, that would tell me that, there's been some sort of reformulation. With the fact that this juice is definitely much darker. And I would also say, just looking at the two bottles here side by side, the newer version with the darker juice seems to be a little bit more kind of cloudy and seems to have more sort of particles floating around in it. Now, I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes to that sort of stuff, so I don't know if that has any effect on, how the juice actually smells or not. I have no idea. These are just observations that I'm making, kind of like on a side-by-side basis. And that's pretty much, those are some of the things that I'm picking up on. But yeah, I would say if I were to guess, I would say that this probably has been reformulated, and they've probably, kind of started using maybe some slightly cheaper materials and oils and stuff like that, to maybe make the availability of this fragrance a little bit better. So that's going to be my sort of take on this situation between the two fragrances. Do I believe that the two fragrances, or do I believe that this fragrance has been reformulated? I would say yes, just based on, some of the obvious things here. I can't confirm this. I don't really have any sources to really back that up, but I would assume, based on the performance, based on the smell of the fragrance, of the actual two fragrances, and just based on the juice color alone, something has definitely changed with these two. So I would say, if you can find a 2023 version of this fragrance, if someone is maybe selling this in like a Facebook group, or if you see an eBay person selling this fragrance, maybe ask them, hey, when was the bottle produced? And if they say it was produced, in March of last year or something like that, then I would say definitely go with this fragrance. But if it's a newer batch, then I would say probably don't waste your money, because yeah, this one so far, the performance on it hasn't been that great. Now, with all FA Paris Fragrance World fragrances, I would say maybe not all of them, but I would say most of them. Most of their fragrances, they do take quite a while to sort of maturate and get to like their full strength, their full smell potential. So I would say don't necessarily write off the newer batches of Divin Asylum, because this one, maybe within like the next month or so, this one may start to become a lot closer to what this original batch smells like. Good case in point, I would say, would be my Essence de Blanc bottle that I just recently sold. That fragrance smelled a lot different from the first day that I had it, up until I would say probably like about 2 months after that point. It started to mature really nicely. It got extremely close to Louis Vuitton's Imagination. And, again, it did that over like a 2-month period pretty much. So I think if you're someone who is just wanting to, wear this fragrance right away as soon as you get it, because of all of the hype that you've seen about the fragrance, you may be disappointed with the performance and the smell of this fragrance right when you first get it. But I would say don't don't sort of write the fragrance off because of that. Maybe give this maybe give this fragrance a little bit of time to sort of maturate. I know, 2 months or so, that is a very long time, to sort of wait for a product that you bought to get to the point to where it needs to be. But I would say at least give it that amount of time. And then I would say pretty much if it still doesn't perform and still doesn't smell the way that it should, even after that period of time, then I would say that's probably when you may want to write this fragrance off and possibly sell it to, kind of get some of your losses back on it. Or, just kind of use it as, I don't know, like an air freshener or a gem fragrance or something like that. But at least now prices on this fragrance have definitely come down and stabilized. I believe now you can pretty much get this fragrance for like around $60. That is definitely still going to be on the higher end when it comes to, clone fragrances from these Middle Eastern houses. So, maybe even wait a little bit longer for maybe this fragrance to come down to like that sort of $30 to $40 range. But, again, this is still going to be, it's a lot better than what it was last year, which I think I paid, even with a discount code, I think I ended up paying like around $73 or so for this fragrance, which, that was a lot. All right. And even I'm just looking at these two just now as well. One other difference that I'm seeing is the stem for like the atomizer is different. So I see it's curved on the newer one, and it's like a straight down design on the original. So I didn't really notice that until just now, just kind of looking at the two. But yeah, I mean, all of those things, they definitely they reek of, reformulation, I would say, for sure, because that's the sort of things that get changed, with other fragrance companies whenever they do some sort of reformulation to their fragrances. So that's my take on these two. All right. So let me know, do you all actually have both bottles? Do you have the original Divin Asylum from last year, and do you have the newer version? And if so, do you also notice, performance and smell differences between the two fragrances? Are the juice colors between your two bottles different? Do you have the sort of different stem design on both of these? Let me know what differences you actually are able to pick out between the two. And let me know if you think that these, fragrances have been reformulated or not. All right. So also, again, if you're brand new to this channel, do me a favor, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And once again, that's Jamar from Vegas Sense. I'll see y'all in the next video.